Vietnam is among the most vulnerable countries to climate change. Increasingly, people will be exposed to the impact of rising sea levels and more powerful storms, among other dangers. These extreme weather events have already had negative impacts on crops, livestock, agriculture, and the livelihoods of people throughout the country. Natural disasters and the effects of climate change also negatively impact food production and hinder the country's sustainable development.
Như làm ruộng sống thì lấy rơm nó nuôi bò. Khi trước thì đất nó không bị ngập thì còn trồng đồ được. Thay trở hàng ngày, còn hiện nay thì ngập thì làm không có được gì hết, thì thành ra tiền bạc thì cũng túng thiếu, vay mượn rồi chỗ này chỗ kia chút đỉnh vậy để sống, hai mẹ con sống qua ngày vậy.
According to Vietnam's 2016 climate change scenarios, a sea level rise of 100 centimetres would submerge about 40% of the Mekong Delta, 17% of the Red River Delta, and 3% of other coastal areas, impacting millions of lives and costing about 10% of the country's GDP.
Cũng như là chị Đương, nhiều người nông dân Việt Nam khác cũng đang chịu những tác động biến đổi khí hậu rất là lớn, đặc biệt là những cái thiên tai gần đây cho thấy rằng là cái thu nhập cũng như là sinh kế của người dân đang bị tác động sâu sắc. Chính vì vậy, Bộ Nông nghiệp Phát triển Nông thôn khi tham gia cái chương trình do IKI tài trợ thông qua Phan và UNDP để thực hiện chương trình hỗ trợ các quốc gia đang phát triển, lồng ghép các cái hoạt động thích ứng của nông nghiệp vào cái kế hoạch thích ứng quốc gia.
So the NAP agricultural program is an extremely important program. It really addresses the urgent and pressing adaptation requirements that vulnerable farmers on the front lines of climate change are facing. The Climate Risk Index is one of the innovative tools that UNDP has introduced. And it really looks at the vulnerabilities in climate risk and looks at these in a systematic way. And it's across 4 agricultural areas in 8 climatic regions. So it's urgent that the government needs to prepare for the long-term impacts of climate change.
The program has helped the government on a number of elements. The first element is the identification of vulnerabilities and a number of risk assessments. The second pivotal area is the identification of gaps, be it capacity gaps, institutional gaps, technical gaps, and knowledge gaps. The third area is very important as well, which is the identification or the elaboration of an appropriate set of indicators for monitoring and evaluation.
Chương trình cũng đã hỗ trợ cho cái việc mà điều phối và hợp tác của các cái đối tác giữa các bộ, trong đó có Bộ Nông nghiệp, Bộ Đầu tư và Bộ Tài nguyên Môi trường, giữa Bộ Nông nghiệp với các đối tác quốc tế như là UNDP, FAO và các cái tổ chức quốc tế khác. Những cái việc mà tăng cường hợp tác này, các cái đối tác mà liên quan đến biến đổi khí hậu sẽ là một trong cái vấn đề rất quan trọng trong cái việc hợp tác để mà ứng phó biến đổi khí hậu trong cái thời gian tới.
Countries like Vietnam require a transformative change in the agriculture sector in order to help poor and food insecure people to transition to climate resilient and sustainable development pathways over the medium to long term. The Integrating Agriculture into National Adaptation Plans program, coordinated by UNDP and FAO, has aimed to integrate climate change adaptation issues related to agriculture-based livelihoods into existing national planning and budgeting processes. In Vietnam, the program has supported the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and related key stakeholders to mainstream adaptation into the agriculture sector's planning processes and has helped to promote decision-making that is informed by risk analysis. The program has also supported the government to take stock of work to date and to develop risk and vulnerability assessments and maps. Work focused on particularly vulnerable areas, such as northern Vietnam, which is impacted by floods and landslides, coastal regions subject to typhoons, drought and extreme changes in rainfall and temperature, as well as the Mekong Delta, which is prone to coastal erosion, sea level rise and saltwater intrusion. The project has also enabled key stakeholders to enhance their capacity in prioritising future adaptation options. In turn, This work can be useful as Vietnam reviews its nationally determined contributions to the Global Paris Agreement on climate change. When Vietnam decided to develop a national adaptation plan that would put resilient agriculture at its core, the program helped to initiate this process and to develop tools to help prioritize work and leverage climate finance for implementation. This has included developing tracking, monitoring and evaluation tools alongside a climate change risk data portal so that planners and local populations can understand the risks they are facing. Together, these activities have helped Vietnam along the pathway toward more sustainable and climate-resilient agriculture and have contributed to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and the implementation of the Paris Agreement in Vietnam.